Congressman from Connecticut, Jim Himes, sits on the House Financial Services Committee and joins me now. Sir, it's great to have you here. And let's start with this because it was just a few minutes ago that Roll Call now reporting that House Republicans want to propose this new super committee to resolve the budget impasse similar to the one that was created in 2011. Do you feel that's completely necessary, or is that just a stall tactic in an already elevated game of stall tactics?
Well, first things first, right? First thing is to restart the government and, stop this nightmare that is developing for all too many people. And by the way, let's stop screwing around with the debt ceiling. I mean, I heard in the intro people saying, oh, the debt ceiling breach won't be that bad, that if we don't pay our bills, that won't be a catastrophe. It will be a catastrophe. And financial they're already starting to get wary. So let's take that off the table, and then by all means, let's do it. Look, there are any number of Democrats and Republicans here who are willing to do what the president said he would do. Talk about entitlement reform, talk about making those programs long-term viable. Just, we'll have a negotiation, but we're not going to do it with a gun to our head, and people understand that John Boehner at the last minute saying we'd like to negotiate, it's just not a credible offer.
Okay, as you say, let's not screw around with the debt ceiling, but as we approach that date, that deadline of October 17th, the White House has given a signal that it would be open to raising the debt limit in this short-term deal. According to Politico, that shift is raising concerns privately, though, among Democrats that the White House appeared to be softening its ironclad position. Does that sound like the president is giving in where he said that he wouldn't, if he would consider, again, it's the phrasing of this being short-term?
Yeah, well, look, you got to remember, the date is not October 17th, right? The date of catastrophe is whenever the financial markets decide that this time the Congress has lost its mind and is not going to honor its obligations for the first time in our history. So set aside October 17th. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen 3 days from now. Nobody really knows. Look, if the president proposed a plan where for a 4 or 6 week period we set aside the shutdown and we set aside this gamesmanship with the full faith and credit of the United States in favor of negotiating a better deal, get rid of the sequester, put our country on a long-term sustainable fiscal path, I know I would sign up for that. But first things first, which is that we cannot hold the full faith and credit of this country hostage to a repeal of Obamacare, to a repeal of whatever it is that the Tea Party Republicans are demanding today.
All right, so, and sir, and forgive me for this, but for so many Americans and people that are watching this, unless they're following the minute-by-minute machinations of how all this process is folding out, a lot of people should be and would be confused to see how the debt ceiling fight and the shutdown are almost inseparable now. And he has said that himself. So the House has now passed 9 mini funding bills to fund portions of the government. There are 7 more piecemeal bills on deck. That's for the shutdown. When it comes to the debt ceiling, do you think that your Republicans, the colleagues that you have, are in denial about the impact of U.S. default? And if we can just show the markets where they are today, guys, looking at the Dow Jones down by 72 points now, red arrows across the board. So, sir, do you think they're in denial about the implications of it?
Look, I think most of my colleagues, I'm a little bit of an exception in that I spent 12 years working in the capital markets. I think most of my colleagues tend to think of a debt ceiling the way they think about a fiscal cliff where taxes go up the next day, or the way they think about a government shutdown, which is that the government shuts down the next day. In both of those cases, Congress has total control. They can stop a fiscal cliff. They can stop a government shutdown. We can stop a government shutdown today if Speaker Boehner would bring a clean CR to the floor. That is not the case with the full faith and credit involved in the debt ceiling. When the markets decide that this place has finally and completely flipped its lid and we see a 3,000-point market drop, there is nothing we can do in this institution that will recapture the business confidence in this country that we need for the recovery to proceed. So no, I am not confident that my colleagues have any idea what could happen if we continue to screw around with the debt ceiling.
Meanwhile, I want to get your take on this Politico reporting that Vice President Joe Biden been frozen out, commonly known as the deal-maker-in-chief for his pacts with Mitch McConnell in 2011 and earlier this year. The article goes on to say that Biden's deals rub Democrats raw. He gave up too much, they said, and for that they have frozen him out. Do you think that Biden is frozen out right now? And if so, is that a smart thing for the vice president to be sitting on the sidelines?
I don't know if Biden is frozen out or right now. I think right now the president is taking a very reasonable position, which is that you don't get to come to me with a list of demands, and if I don't acknowledge these demands or abide by these demands, you are going to destroy the full faith and credit of the United States government. By the way, my Republican colleagues should think about the fact that they don't want me doing that. a Republican president down the road. This is just something that should be off the table. When time comes, though, and hopefully it comes soon on the other side of this crisis, to continue the good work of getting our country on a long-term sustainable fiscal path. The one thing I know for sure is that nobody's going to like that deal. You know, I was one of the voters for the Simpson-Bowles budget, right? The 38 of us who voted for that thing. Nobody liked anything about that. And so you know success will come in the final negotiations when pretty much everybody is grumpy about the final deal.
Congressman Jim Himes. Sir, great to have you on. We're going to let you get back to work, but we really do appreciate your time.
Thank you, Thomas.